So I'm here in front of Zhou Shanghai, which is a modern-day Chinese restaurant. And Zhou Shanghai was first established in 1995, first branch being opened by Zhou Si, its owner, in Flushing, New York. Now, the one that I'm standing right in front of is the second branch, which opened after the success with the first branch. And currently there's a third branch in Midtown Manhattan. There are also 3 other branches located in Japan, which demonstrates how it is successful not only in the US, but internationally. After becoming a chain, Zhou Shanghai has attracted a grand assortment of people, meaning that it doesn't only attract the locals that live around here, but also people, the upper class or tourists. The restaurant prides itself on the fact that it's on nearly every tourist guide, and people just go there because it's so popular and it's a really good reputation. So rather than serve and target one group of people, Zhou Shanghai has mastered the ability to attract people of all backgrounds, which is why when you walk in, you'll see people of all nationalities, statuses, and tourists from all over the world. Now, from a critical perspective, if you walk in and you look around, you will realize that Zhou Shanghai has turned into a tourist trap. And let me explain what that means. It basically means that this chain restaurant, which has been popularized by food rating services, Zagat, New York Times, has become an attraction for tourists who neglect to deal with the unfamiliarity of being in Chinatown. So you see all these places around Pell, on Mott, on Elizabeth, all these places that offer authentic food. People are neglecting to go there because they see, oh, Zhou Shanghai, is on the tourist guide. So they choose Zhou Shanghai, which is not authentic, which is in fact modern, over these other restaurants. So in the early 19th century, Pell Street was part of 5 Points, which is an infamous location in the city's past, known for its high crime rates, its dirty slums, and its poor inhabitants. Now, in the past, most of the people from 5 Points were from Ireland, Germany, Italy, Scotland, those Eastern European countries. But over the years, the Chinese population has grown, especially around Mott Street, Pell Street. And this, the population didn't greatly increase until the 60s when the immigration quota was lifted by the US government. And after that, Chinatown grew past, its small area centralized around Mott Street. Leading out of Pell Street is Doyer Street, which is also known as the Bloody Angle. And Doyer Street was the site of many turf wars between the Hop Sing Tongs and the On Liangs, which are 2 major Chinese gangs that dominated the area. And it was said that the gang members would lurk around the area waiting to hatchet their victims. Once they were finished, they were able to escape in an underground tunnel. Now, many of these violent Chinese gangs were prevalent until the end of the 20th century. According to David W. Chen, author of the New York Times, 20 years ago, violence was not just an on-screen phenomenon in Chinatown. And on many weekends, powerful gangs vied to carve out turf, even inside the half-dozen or so movie theaters in Chinatown. And other violent gangs such as the Flying Dragons, the Phuc Chings, the Tong On, and the Vietnamese Born to Kill became prevalent after the end of the Hop Sing Tong era. According to Jada Yuan, author of New York Mag, the rise of crack has led street gangs to new levels of violence and profitability. In other news, the Bloody Angle of Doyer Street again becomes the most dangerous block in the city as the Chinese Flying Dragons wage turf wars with the Vietnamese BTKs. Restaurants such as Zhou Shanghai have begun to take away business from the surrounding eateries, as mentioned before. Tourists who are unfamiliar with Chinatown, they read, the tourist guide, and they think this is authentic Chinese food. The restaurants that are moving in, such as Zhou Shanghai, into Chinatown, indicates a form of gentrification, where you have restaurants and upscale eateries moving into lower-scale neighborhoods and taking over available space. Now, although the moving in of Zhou Shanghai doesn't necessarily mean that people are being forced out, it signifies an underlying trend that is becoming more prevalent both in Chinatown and around the city, where you have restaurants, condos, hotels being built and integrating themselves into these poorer neighborhoods.
Newer and upper-class Chinese restaurants, such as Zhou Shanghai, have absorbed business from surrounding areas. This is a result of incoming tourists who are unfamiliar with Chinatown, and as a result, choose popular attractions such as Zhou Shanghai over smaller eateries with the mindset that these chains serve authentic food. Their perceptions of authenticity are even confirmed by Zagat, who describes Zhou Shanghai as an authentic Shanghai chain restaurant. However, how authentic can a chain restaurant serving non-Chinese people be? As a chainlet serving such a great variety in population, one can only characterize Zhou Shanghai as being a modern Chinese restaurant. Nevertheless, Zhou Shanghai has had a significant impact on Chinatown. It has been a major part of Pell Street's transformation from a crime-infested and poor neighborhood into one that attracts tourists and people from all over the city, including the upper class.